Former CIA Director Brennan said he was worried that Russian intelligence operatives may have successfully recruited Trump campaign aides. And on the matter of possible collusion, that he was concerned about whether members of Team Trump were involved in Russian meddling. But he testified whether there was collusion or not is not a matter for the CIA. It's not their job. Let's turn to Rachel Bade now, a congressional reporter for Politico. It felt like when Trey Gowdy asked that question, he got an answer he was not expecting.
Absolutely. I think he was trying to talk about leaks there, but then Brennan went off to talk, obviously, about how this was turning into be a big problem in 2016. He said he was worried about contacts he was seeing over and over again between the Trump campaign and the Russians. And he used the word suborn over and over again, basically saying that the Russians have a habit of trying to talk to Americans and basically bribe them or get them to manipulate them into doing their will, whether or not they realize this is happening to them. He was worried that that was what was happening. So he took it upon himself to refer this to the FBI and to look into whether or not this collusion was happening. Now, he did not say whether or not collusion was happening. He left the agency, the CIA, in January. However, this is, again, not the answer Gowdy was expecting, and I think it sort of sent Republicans for a little shockwave at that moment.
Part of the base of his testimony seemed to be that he was concerned about the number and frequency of contacts.
That's absolutely right. He said over and over again that he was seeing intelligence that was signaling there was definitely contact going on. Another thing he brought up that Republicans, I think, really wanted to hear him talk about these leaks that we're seeing over and over again. And he did say these leaks that we're seeing are damaging to intelligence gathering methods. He's basically pointed to reports saying that the president gave classified information to Russian officials in the Oval Office, classified information that had come from Israel, allegedly. And he basically said the fact that this had gotten out was very discouraging to him, and he thought it could be very damaging because it would prohibit other countries from working with the United States on sensitive matters. He said those leakers need to be found and they need to be tracked down and stopped.
Then there's Michael Flynn, the former national security advisor, and this is just developing now. Remember, Michael Flynn had contacts with the Russians that he then lied about, and conversations with the Russians that he then lied about. He was eventually fired, according to the White House, for lying to the vice president. He refused to acknowledge a subpoena, give up records, and give testimony to a committee. But we've just heard from the Senate Intelligence Committee that it will likely take new actions today to force him to testify. What do we know about that, if anything?
The Senate Intelligence Chairman, Richard Burr, brought up yesterday that he could potentially hold Flynn in contempt of Congress. Basically, Flynn, by taking the Fifth Amendment, is refusing to give over these documents that Senator Burr wants about his contacts between the Russians and himself during the campaign. Burr said, I don't understand how you can assert your Fifth Amendment right if I'm just asking for documents. So there's a little bit of frustration, obviously, on the part of the committee. Now, Republicans disagree whether or not this was a good idea. Is it a good idea to hold him in contempt of Congress? It certainly is going to be a big circus on the Hill if that's going to be what they end up doing, and will definitely distract from Republicans' agenda on tax reform, health care, etc.
Rachel, bottom line, if the White House was hoping for some relief on this matter, for some cover on this matter, did they get it today in this hearing?
Oh, there's absolutely, definitely not. I would say that we keep seeing this over and over again. Today, obviously, the president unveiled his budget. They hope that that would be the thing driving the headlines. But again, all we're seeing are headlines about Flynn saying there could have been collusion. He was worried about contacts. We're going to be hearing about potentially Flynn being held in contempt of Congress. These are not the things the White House wants to see on page one. They want to be talking about their agenda. So this definitely hurts Republicans here in Washington.
Rachel Bade, reporter for Politico, live in a noisy statuary hall on Capitol Hill this afternoon. Rachel, thanks so much. Appreciate it. More on this in a moment. We'll talk with the